Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are getting into a text that has, I think, really reshaped the conversation on self-improvement. We're talking about James Clear's Atomic Habits. And our mission here is not just to summarize it, but to really get at the fundamental physics of how our behaviors actually work.
And that whole framework, it's all built around that one word in the title, atomic.
Right.
And we tend to think of atomic as just tiny, a small little piece of something. But Clear starts by pointing out it also means the source of immense power. So we're talking about these tiny, repeatable actions that, well, they unlock these massive outcomes.
Okay, so let's get right into that central idea because it's so powerful, the idea of compounding. If you get just 1% better each day, after a year, you're not just, 365% better. You end up 37 times better.
Yeah, and the reverse is just as scary. If you get 1% worse,
You're headed towards zero.
pretty much. It's all about the trajectory, not the big heroic effort in one day. The analogy that really drives this home is the airplane.
Oh, the flight path one.
Yeah. You're flying from LA to New York. If the pilot adjusts the heading by just 3.5 degrees, that's nothing. No one would even feel that.
You wouldn't notice a thing.
Right. But that tiny shift means you don't land in New York anymore. You end up hundreds of miles away. You land in Washington, D.C. A single tiny shift can completely change your destiny.
And what's so important here is that this wasn't just like an academic theory for him. This came from trauma. James Clear's own story is really the ultimate proof of this concept. It's grounded in this severe head injury he got playing baseball.
It was a profound mental reset for him. Post-traumatic seizures, a medically induced coma.
Yeah.
When he woke up, he was so confused he thought it was 1998, not 2002. That kind of neurological challenge. It forced him to rebuild his life from scratch.
And getting back to normal was,
Yeah.
well, it wasn't easy. He tried to get back on the baseball team and got cut. The only junior on the team to be cut. And that humiliation, that huge setback, that's what created the system in the book.
Exactly. Instead of focusing on the big goal, I have to make varsity, he just focused on the smallest possible system.
Like lifting weights a few times a week.
Lifting weights, sleeping better, eating better, just tiny, consistent wins. And over years, those small habits led to results that he said were unimaginable when he started.
So what he learned on that journey became this foundational framework. The backbone of the whole thing is this 4-step model. Cue, craving, response, and reward.
Right, which builds on B.F. Skinner's old model.
But the real breakthrough is how he integrates our internal world, our thoughts and our beliefs into that simple loop.
So once you buy into the power of small changes, the next big idea is this shift away from goals. Clear argues that we need to focus on systems instead.
Okay, this is where I think a lot of people get stuck. We're all taught to set huge, ambitious goals. Are you really saying that if someone wants to, lose 50 pounds, they should just ignore the scale?
In a way, yes. You ignore the outcome and you fall in love with the process. A goal is a result, like winning a championship. The system is the daily training plan.
The thing you can actually control.
Exactly. You can't control the final score, but you can control whether you show up for practice. And focusing on the system solves that problem of what happens after you hit the goal. You don't just stop and regress.
You just keep running the system.
Right. And your happiness isn't tied to some far-off result. You get to feel successful every day. You just follow the plan.
That makes a lot of sense. But it requires so much patience. And that leads to what he calls the plateau of latent potential.
This is why people quit. They get stuck in the valley of disappointment. They're putting in the work for weeks, maybe months, and they see nothing. Flat results.
So they think the effort is wasted.
Yeah. And that's the killer part of compounding. It's not linear.
It's the ice cube analogy, isn't it?
It is. If a room is 25 degrees and you raise the temperature, 26, 27, 30, you see no change. It's still a block of ice.
And then you hit 32 degrees.
And suddenly, everything changes. That 1 degree shift, which felt just like all the others, unlocks this huge transformation. The work wasn't wasted in the valley. It was being stored.
Right before the breakthrough.
Okay, so if systems are the how, we still need a why, a North Star.
And that's where identity change comes in. This might be the most important idea in the whole book.
I think it is. Habits aren't just things you do. They're microevolutions of the self.
Yeah.
Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the person you want to become.
So if I write one page, I'm casting a vote for I am a writer.
Precisely. The real reason habits stick is because they build up this body of evidence about who you are.
So the focus changes. It's not I want to run a marathon. It's I am a runner.
Yes. And that's why our self-talk is so powerful and so dangerous. We say things like, oh, I'm terrible with directions, or I'm just not a morning person.
And those create these mental grooves, these identity traps.
Immense internal pressure, you start to resist any change because it feels like you're contradicting who you are. So the first step is to just decide who you want to be.
Okay, so once the identity is set, we get to the practical stuff. The 4 laws of behavior change. It all starts with Law 1, make it obvious. And this is all about our environment, which the book calls the invisible hand that shapes human behavior.
Right. It goes back to that old equation. Behavior is a function of the person in their environment. Basically, if your environment is filled with temptation, you're going to be tempted. It's almost inevitable. We are shaped by what we see.
And the best example of this is that cafeteria study at Mass General.
And Thorndike's study. It's brilliant. They wanted people to drink more water, but they didn't run a campaign. They didn't try to motivate anyone.
We just changed the environment.
They changed the choice architecture.
Well,
all they did was put water bottles next to the cash registers where the soda used to be.
that's it.
That was it. And soda sales dropped over 11%, while water sales shot up by more than 25%.
All because the cue for water became obvious.
And you can apply this with something called habit stacking. You just pair a new habit. You want to start with a habit you already do. The formula is, after my current habit, I will do my new habit.
So like, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. The coffee is the trigger.
It's the obvious cue. Takes all the guesswork out of it.
So what about the flip side? The inversion of this law is make it invisible, which to me sounds a little like just avoiding the problem. Shouldn't disciplined people be able to resist temptation?
That's the myth of willpower. Clear says self-control is a short-term fix. A disciplined environment is the long-term solution. If you have cookies on the counter, you have to say no, 30 times a day?
But if you never buy them,
You only have to say no once at the store.
the Vietnam War heroin study is such a powerful illustration of this. You had all these veterans who were addicted over there where all the cues were.
The stress, the environment, their peers.
And when they came home, 90% of them just stopped. The addiction didn't follow them because the entire environment that cued it was gone.
So the takeaway is you don't have to move to a new country. Just hide the remote. Make the bad habit invisible.
Which brings us to Law 2. Make it attractive. This is all about the craving. This is biology, right? The dopamine spike.
It's all about dopamine. But the fascinating thing we've learned is that dopamine isn't really the pleasure chemical, it's the anticipation chemical.
It's what drives the action.
Exactly. They did these experiments with rats where if they blocked dopamine, the rats literally lost the will to live. They'd die of thirst even with water right there.
Because there was no anticipation of a reward.
Right. And on the flip side, if you flood their dopamine systems, they'll just keep repeating an action like pushing a lever over and over just for that hit of anticipation.
So it's the craving, not the reward itself.
It's the craving. Gamblers get their high before the bet is settled. It's the expectation.
So how do we harness that?
With temptation bundling, you link something you want to do with something you need to do.
The formula is basically, after my needed habit, I will get to do my wanted habit.
Right. Like that engineering student, Ronan Byrne. He wanted to watch Netflix, but he needed to exercise.
So he hacked his bike so Netflix would only play if he was cycling at a certain speed. That's brilliant.
He made exercise the gateway to what he found attractive.
And it's not just our own internal drives, it's social pressure, too.
Oh, massively. We are wired to imitate our social groups. If a group we admire rewards a certain behavior, that behavior becomes incredibly attractive to us. Think of the Polgar sisters, the chess grandmasters.
They grew up in a house where chess was everything.
It was the most attractive thing you could possibly do. Their culture made mastery an obsession.
Okay, that brings us to the second half of the framework.
Yeah.
Law 3, make it easy. This is about the response. We're all wired to follow the law of least effort. We just naturally drift toward the easy option.
We do. We're built to conserve energy, so instead of trying to pump yourself up with more willpower...
Which never lasts.
Right. You should just reduce the friction in your environment. He uses the garden hose analogy. Don't try to force more water through a bent hose. Just unbend the hose.
So lay out your gym clothes the night before.
Exactly. Reduce the number of steps between you and the good habit.
And this law also pushes us to prioritize frequency over quality, at least at the start.
Yes. That photography class story is perfect. The teacher split the class into two groups. The quantity group was graded on how many photos they took. the quality group on producing one perfect photo.
And the quantity group ended up taking all the best pictures.
Because they were constantly in action, they were learning by doing. The other group just sat around theorizing about what makes a perfect photo.
Action is the best teacher.
Which leads right into the 2-minute rule.
This one seems almost too simple. Read one page instead of read a chapter. Put on my running shoes instead of run 3 miles. Doesn't that just feel insignificant?
It can, but you're missing the point. The goal isn't the achievement in those 2 minutes.
The goal is mastering the art of showing up.
Yes. You standardize the beginning. You make starting so easy, it's impossible to say no. You're just casting that daily vote for your new identity.
And the inversion for bad habits is make it difficult. We use what he calls commitment devices to basically lock our future selves into good behavior.
The story of Victor Hugo is just incredible. He had this impossible deadline for The Hunchback of Notre Dame, so he had his assistant lock away all his clothes except for a big shawl.
So he literally couldn't go outside to procrastinate.
He made it physically impossible. That's a commitment device.
And that leads us to the final law, Law 4, make it satisfying. The reward.
And this is the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided.
The hand-washing study in Karachi, Pakistan is a great example. People knew they should wash their hands, but they weren't doing it.
Until researchers gave them this really nice soap. It lathered well, it smelled great, it turned a chore into this small, pleasurable sensory experience, and compliance shot up.
Because the reward was immediate.
And that's critical, because our brains are mismatched for modern life. We have these ancient brains designed for an immediate return environment.
You see a lion, you run. You see a berry, you eat. Instant feedback.
Exactly. But now we live in a delayed return environment. We save for retirement decades away. We exercise for health that we might not see for years. The good habits have a delayed reward. The bad habits.
Like eating a donut, that reward is immediate.
So we have to invent immediate rewards for our good habits. But, and this is key, they have to reinforce the identity.
So no rewarding a workout with a pint of ice cream.
Right. You're sending mixed signals. Reward it with something that aligns with a healthy identity, like a massage.
And for bad habits, the inversion is to make it immediately unsatisfying.
This is where accountability comes in, a habit contract. You make a public or financial promise. If you fail, there's an immediate painful consequence. Knowing someone is watching provides that punishment that our ancient brain understands.
Okay, so we've got the system down. How do we keep it going? How do we stick with it when it all gets boring?
2 simple maintenance rules. First, don't break the chain. Use a calendar or an app to track your streak. Seeing that chain grow is a powerful, immediate reward.
And second,
never miss twice. This one's huge. Missing one day is an accident, life happens, but missing a second day, that's the beginning of a new bad habit. Successful people just get back on track faster than everyone else.
and to keep motivation high over the long term, you use the Goldilocks rule.
We are most motivated when we're working on tasks of just manageable difficulty.
Yeah.
Not too easy that it's boring, not so hard that it's discouraging.
About 4% beyond your current skill level. That's the sweet spot.
It keeps you engaged in that flow state, and it's a perfect antidote to the biggest enemy of self-improvement, boredom.
And that really is the final paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mastery requires practice, and practice eventually becomes boring.
It does. The difference between the pros and the amateurs is that the pros find a way to show up even when they're bored.
You have to fall in love with the process, even the repetitive parts.
That's the price of admission. But here's the final insight we want to leave you with, and it ties all the way back to identity. You don't have to follow the same path as everyone else.
Your genes, your natural skills, they don't mean you don't have to work hard.
No, they clarify it. They tell you what to work hard on. They let you find a game where the odds are in your favor.
You can win by being different, by combining a few skills you're pretty good at to create one unique advantage.
And that's the real power here. Small habits don't just add up, they compound, they multiply.
So the question for you is, what tiny 1-degree shift can you make today that will land you hundreds of miles closer to the person you want to become? That's your challenge until our next deep dive.